welcome to the Aline with Aline podcast. I'm Aline, and thank you so much for joining me. If you are enjoying the series, please kindly like, and if you feel to share with other people so they can also be a part of it, please kindly share. And if you want to be updated on all that's going on and when the next podcast is ready, please kindly subscribe. Thank you so much. So this week, I really want to talk about, so last week was about getting out of our own way. And this week, I'm straight into business. This week is about how important it is when we do the deep work to rest afterwards. So I'm going to share a little bit more with you about that in a moment. But that is what we're talking about this week. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Aline, first of all, hi. And I am an intuitive empath, and I am also an Akashic channel, amongst other things. And what I've been doing each week, I think we're on about week 7 or 8 now, instead of having client sessions and doing readings, I have been coming on every week and talking about my personal health journey, because I'm on a mission to get myself as healthy and vital as I possibly can be, to help all those I was born to help, and to do all I was born to do. And what I'm doing is committing to every week is coming on and updating, and hopefully some of the things, that's quite nice actually, Ho'oponopono and Hopi. So hopefully, and I always say, if this just resonates with one person, that's wonderful. So I really hope this is helping. And the idea is for me to show up and be seen. So I'm doing my visibility thing, but I don't think I'm alone with this. I really don't think I'm alone with this. This year of the Water Rabbit has been all about unraveling. It's a spiritual year, and it's all about preparing us for next year, because we are really being shown what doesn't work for us, where we need to look after ourselves more, and who needs to be around us, where we need to be, etc., etc., etc. So anything that is not aligning, if you like, with who we are at the moment, and it's not about aligning with ourselves this year, because that's coming next year, but anything that's in our way is being gently or quickly removed. And that is people, places, things. That can be, relationships, that can be work, that can be being moved from a home suddenly. And I spoke in another podcast, if you would like to revert back to that one, about blessings in disguise. There's so much going on at the moment, and we all know what's happening in the world. And as easy as it is to be lost in that, it's so important to have compassion, but not to lose ourselves in the suffering and grief and go into grief mode. I'm feeling it as I say this. So you have decided to be here for a reason. You have decided to be here in these times of changes, and you're going to be tested. Let's not beat around the bush. You're going to be tested. You have chosen to come here. If you're listening to this podcast, you have chosen to come here, and you're listening to this because we are, vibrating on the same level, on a similar level. We have similar reasons for being here. So it's not by chance that you're listening to this. And I really want to say to you, and this is from my heart, so deeply, keep going. Rest, but keep going, not but and. So just please keep going. So what I'd like to share with you is what happened to me recently. So in the previous podcast, I was talking about getting out of our own way, and I took us through a lovely process that works for me, and I hope it works for you too. And I mentioned to you that I was on a course for the weekend, and it was in a different time zone. So I was up until 2:00, 3:00. I think it was 2, 3, 2 midnight. That was the idea, but because my clock was all out of system, it was a little bit later than that, shall we say. And what that resulted in was me being in bed for 2 days. And I just really listened instead of trying to push through that I've done so many times before. I just had to just be in bed for those 2 days. There's various things going on in my body naturally anyway. And my body was just, you've taken in so much information over the weekend. You have been with 800, 900 other souls energetically over the weekend. You really, really need to rest. And this is what's come up really, really strongly for me to talk about. So what I want to talk about is when we're doing the really deep work, or even when we're getting any new information, it's so important to give ourselves that time to absorb it all, to let it integrate into our systems, because it's not just going into here, it's going into all of our bodies, it's going into our hearts, and it's also going through various levels of who we were. Because when we're doing the deep work, and when we're resonating with some changes that we feel in our lives, there's lots that needs to be gently, I say manipulated, but in the nicest way. It's manipulating the energy. And where we've been so used to something, there's going to be a little bit of time, shall we say, that's important just to allow that to integrate into us. So as I mentioned, at the weekend, I was involved. I was watching, and I was involved. It was immersive in a women's centered weekend, and it was very, very beautiful. It was very, very tiring. It was emotional. There was lots coming up. And, I went through a bit of a roller coaster. What I also had to do, and this was really important at one point, was detach myself, because as much as, I'm trying to be seen and not to hide, I really had to detach myself from energies of a lot of women on the group. I mean, there were 800, 900 women there, all from different countries, all with different stories, all with different energies, all with whatever was going on. Because as an intuitive empath, and there were many intuitive empaths there, I'm just talking about me personally. This is what happened for me. So when we were in a situation and we were listening to the host, and she was talking to us about many, many beautiful things, I had already gone into a process on the first day to make sure that I was completely protected, but we were also sending out love to everybody. And what really came up for me was when we came to do these little mini groups, and I won't go into it too much, but just to say that when we went into mini groups, then we did it 3 times. I did it on one of the days, and then we did it on another day. And what happened quite a lot was when they said, right, we're going to put you into mini groups, quite a lot of the ladies disappeared. So I imagine they decided not to do so many more mini groups. But anyway, so I was involved with 2 of the mini groups. And one of them, basically it was, if you have the shortest hair, you will be guiding everybody through. If you have the longest hair, you will be guiding everybody through. Guess what happened the second time? So what this resulted in, we were given a task and a practice, which was incredible. And for privacy reasons and confidentiality and etc., I can't go through everything at all. What I will say was my experience. It was extremely, extremely beautiful. And what started happening, I was feeling, as I do with Akashic sessions, as I do when I'm around people and I'm really, really open, I was really feeling the energy of the other women. And I started having doubts afterwards. And I was thinking, well, did I say that? Did I do that well enough? Did I explain that well enough? Did I include everybody? And all this was going on afterwards for about half an hour. I was like, okay, I have to stop this now. So I took myself away and I asked for beautiful spirits that Crystal C. Perry and Foster Perry have introduced me to really help me. And it was like that, it was instant. And I realized, oh my goodness, I've gone into a situation and I was so open. I was too open because there was so much information coming in. So the reason, and it's going to come to me in a minute, but the reason I'm talking about this is, first of all, protection. And I don't want to say that when we go into groups, we'll have to have our barriers up. What I want to say is, when you go into any kind of group situation, and as I said, there are about 800, 900 women in this group, so it wasn't a small group, is only allow any feelings or emotions that are going to come towards you of love. And if you go in with that intention, you're absolutely fine. Because what I found with the group of the 800, 900 people, as I said, so many people have got lots going on. They've got lots of stories. They've got lots of emotions going on. And both of the groups that I were involved with were very, very emotional women. So they knew how to group us. And it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. And I cried, and it was very, very beautiful. And then when I came out, I started feeling what others in the group were feeling, but actually it wasn't mine. And I know for a fact that it was one of the other people who were in the group, because in the chats on the Zoom, she actually posted something. And I just thought, oh my goodness, that's what it is. So that was really, I was talking about getting out of our own way last week. That was really getting out of your own way. So I just wanted to explain that to you. And so once I had grounded myself, I'd got myself back, and I had said to myself, I'm going to be present. I'm going to be grounded. I'm going to be centered. I'm going to feel what I'm feeling. I'm going to feel what resonates with me. I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon of everybody else's emotions. And I don't want to say group hysteria, but sometimes people can get really, really, really excited as a group, and it's easy to, jump into that. So I just stayed very, very grounded and very, very centered. And that was, as I said, it was 3 days. It was actually 3.5 days, because we did something the Thursday evening before. And because all of my timings were out, and then, as I said, there was something naturally going on, as we women have, straight after that, I was and it made me giggle, actually, because, I'm talking about getting out of our own way and being really gentle with ourselves. And then that happened. And it was my body's way. I understand now, it's my body's way of saying, you have to integrate everything that you have all that information that you've received over the past 3.5 days, because a lot of it was new. A lot of it I resonated and felt and agreed with. And then there were other elements that perhaps weren't for me. So there was a filtering process going on. And when I came away from the group as well, and again, I had to go into a process. I was really feeling like a fear of missing out, like not being included kind of thing. And then I realized that was probably many out of the 800 or 900 who weren't continuing with the process. I don't know, but that's what was happening for me. And that's what I felt into. And so I detached myself from that. So what I really needed to do was just, the only way I suppose I could describe it was numbness. So I had a bit of a revelation during this as well. And I talk about this as well, very much as intuitive empaths. We're all, not always, I find, and I'm really working on this, is that we can be very, I'm absolutely fine. I'm going to help everybody else, put myself on the back burner, forget about all my needs. And it was really interesting because this came up very strongly as a subject in the talk over the weekend. It's like, oh, there's a name for it. So it is something that I've been talking about anyway. So that was really interesting. And so that day that I just couldn't move, really, one of the members of my household sent me a message and said, can I bring you a drink? And normally I go, no, I'm fine. I'll pop up and I'll come and get that in a moment. I just went, yes, please. So I allowed that help. And this is what is so important. We have to have the balance. So it's great to help people. I'm not saying don't help people. And also, as you know, I'm on my personal health journey, so I'm very much putting myself first. And in this, so I'm not being 1,000,000% there for everybody else. I'm not going out and being in group situations because I'm working on my energy levels. And I know that once, and talking in the past, I know that before, my energy levels, if I was in a group situation, I could be rather tired. I can hear it now as well afterwards. So I am showing up every week on my personal health journey to speak about where I am, and hopefully that is helping people along the way as well, because as I said, you know, we're in a year of unraveling, we're in a spiritual year. So going back to what I said, so really important when you're in any kind of group situation, and hopefully the person who is guiding you will take you through that anyway. So when I do my groups, and that's happening next year, watch this space, I'm going to take us all through a beautiful process. So we're all connected very beautifully, but we're all very centered and grounded. It's not just sending love. It's not just sending love. It's not just sending love. It's being very, very grounded, centered, protected, and sending love. So that's what I wanted to mention first of all. So that was that. So that was the group situation happened, and then I was in bed for 2 full days, and it was what I needed. You know, it was just what I needed. And then I, even after the 2 days, just very, very gently starting again, and I was going at my own rhythm. And I've spoken about this before, is it's really important to go at your rhythm. If somebody wants you to go faster, don't. If somebody wants you to go slower, don't. Go at your rhythm. That's really important. If somebody wants you to go slower, and, you know, in terms of to help them and it resonates with you, great. But what I'm saying, yeah, that's really interesting, that's just come up. But what I'm saying is really listen to what works for you. So if somebody's trying to say, oh, quickly do this, I need to get this done, I need to get this done, instead of jumping into their energy of, you know, the hare, you know, the hare and the tortoise tail, then just go at your own pace. And if somebody is trying to get you just to just really, really slow down, but actually you feel like doing some things, then do that. If somebody's saying, well, you know, you've done quite a lot, just go and have a rest. If that resonates, great. But if you're in a focused action, let's get this done, let's get this done, and it feels right for you, you keep going with that and listen to yourself. So again, it's all about filtering. So that's the tortoise way. Slowly but steadily. So this is what I want to talk about. So when we're doing really deep work, we unravel, we rest, and we repeat. Okay, so this year, like I said, the water rabbit year, all about unraveling. So when we're in a situation where we're having a lot of new information, or we're going through a healing process, we go and see somebody who's doing a healing session on us, take time to let that integrate. This is what I'm saying. And make sure that whenever, I mean, I always say to with all of my readings, make sure you've either got the whole day or you're going to bed afterwards. But this is just in general, when you are involved in any kind of group session, or when you're involved in any kind of, you know, your one-to-one healing, or even you're just getting some new information that's really resonating with you to make changes, give yourself some space to let that absorb into your bodies. Because the analogy I use, and I was thinking about this the other day actually, is like, you know, when you do a reformación, that's Spanish, you know, when you do a refurbishment on a house, you knock a wall down. So the wall's knocked down, you don't then immediately start putting all the furniture up against it, you will probably put a bit of plaster on there. Just make sure it's all, nice and neat around the edges, and make sure that it's safe. And then probably what you do is wait for that plaster to dry, make sure it's nice and firm, and there's a good foundation in that plaster. Of course, before you knock a wall down, you make sure there's a good joint. You're not knocking down walls where everything else is going to collapse. But this is the analogy that I'm using. So when we're doing refurbishment, we don't knock something down, slap some plaster on it, slap some paint on it, and then push all the furniture up and then walk out and there's the house ready. We take time. So we do things individually. So one wall is going to be knocked down one day, and then we work on that. We take the time to finish it, and then we move on to something else. So, and equally, when we're building a house, we set the foundations first. And then we allow that to settle, and then we start building upon that. So this is very, very much the reason I'm using refurbishment as an analogy, because we're already going through such a process, and it's very likely that you've already started the deep work. If you haven't already started the deep work, there's absolutely no judgment at all, because we're all in completely different places. And this is what I'm talking about, go at your own pace. So if you haven't started the deep work yet, but you kind of feel, and I'll explain what I mean by deep work in a moment, but you kind of feel, okay, well, something doesn't feel quite right. I don't feel the same that I used to feel about this work that I'm doing. I don't feel the same way that I used to feel about this relationship I'm in. I don't feel the same as I did around some friends. I don't feel the same about the place that I'm living in. These are all signs. The universe and your spiritual team is having a little gentle nudge, because it's time to get you into, a more aligned space, if you like, for your true essence to shine. So when we've been in a situation for so long and we start getting those feelings, this doesn't feel quite right for me, that is very much to be listened to and to be gently dealt with. That is when we start doing the deep work. Now, the deep work is inner work. The deep work is really, really with self-compassion, with self-love, really getting to know yourself. It's understanding who you are, is accepting yourself, shadows and all. And when I talk about shadows, that's talking about, it's not all Pollyanna, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. We have different shades of ourselves. And once we accept all of the shaded areas and all of the light, then that's self-acceptance. And I'm not going to say it's easy. Really not. Because like I said, we're breaking down walls. So let's use the analogy of the house. To do a refurbishment, lots has to be removed, bashed down, taken out, restructured before that house is ready to move into. And that is the same with deep work. We really have to be really honest with ourselves, be really compassionate with ourselves, seek help, be really open, really honest, and enter into that great work, into that deep work. And that isn't necessarily for everybody. So if you really feel that's not for you, that's absolutely fine. There may be a moment in another 6 months or in another year that you really feel it's time for you to start doing that. As I said, go at your own pace. The reason I'm talking about this is because the world is going through many, many changes, and we are going through many, many changes as a collective. And we are seeing things differently. And as I said, the chances are, if you're listening or watching this podcast, then there is something going on with you. Absolutely. So that is what I wanted to share today, is be really gentle, kind and compassionate with yourself. And my big takeaway, as I said, was it's very funny. I'm talking about getting out of my own way, and then I'm at this beautiful women-centered weekend, all beaming and bright and happy, and then exhausted. So it's really, really pacing yourself. And so, for example, I didn't have to be there the whole time, but that was the good girl coming out of me. That was, well, I've said I'm going to be there. And instead of, because sometimes my internet started going. In fact, there was a power cut as well, not here, but it's the third power cut that I've been involved in. And the host was talking and taking us through, possibilities and what we were seeing. And I was in such this huge visionary experience, and all of a sudden she was gone. And the where she lived, their whole power circuit had gone. So that was rather interesting. And I'm digressing slightly. You know me, I'm a little bit fairy, I get quite excited. So going back to what I was saying, so I was in this group experience. I thought I had myself ready and prepared. And then the good girl came in of pushing through, instead of resting throughout and not being there the whole time. Instead of stopping at, say, midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning and going to bed, I was pushing through, even though, they were starting to talk about selling products, which is fine and fair enough. I understand that. But I stayed because I was being the good girl to listen to it, even though I could have just read it the following day. So that was a huge takeaway for me as well, of what I need to work on. I still need to work on, that good girl, that perfectionism, that kind of thing. And so that's why I'm showing up every week, and I'm trying not to edit the videos too much. So it comes out as imperfect, perfectly imperfect. So that's what I really, really felt to share today. And like I said, the takeaway is just to go at your own pace. So, and the takeaway is, whenever you're doing any kind of deep work, really, really make sure you're resting afterwards. It's not a luxury. It's not if you feel like it, it's essential, because there is no way that any refurbished house can have so much work done in one day and then just be ready to move into. It just can't happen. And it's the same with your deep work. So give yourself space, give yourself a moment for integration. There's going to probably be tears coming up because you're shifting, you're moving things around. So give yourself that space. All right. So I wish you so much love. And we will be back again. I'm actually going to be on another course this weekend, but this is slightly more sociable hours. So we're back again in a week. And if you haven't seen the previous podcast on getting out of our own way, get my right teeth in, I highly recommend that you watch that, because there is a very, very lovely process that just helps us center and realize what's truly right for us. This week for me was about sharing with you about making sure you're going at your own pace, and making sure when you're doing any kind of emotional, deep inner work, you are giving yourself time to integrate that, your bodies, your mind, your soul, your emotional bodies. Because as I said, imagine, we're houses. You can't go into a house, knock down on all the walls and then think, right, let's move in, done. Doesn't work that way. It needs to have the time afterwards. So the plaster needs to settle, the paint needs to dry before anything happens. So I hope that analogy helps. And as I mentioned in the previous podcast, I've opened up 6 Akashic healing sessions this month, because I was told. So I'm showing up in service. If that resonates with you, please get in touch, and it might be my honor to read for you. Okay, so have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week. So much love.